Wayward Courier, Chapter 24. The changeling came to in a small dark room. There was only one light source, a small lamp hanging from the ceiling. It tried to move, only to find itself tied to a chair. Its horn ignited in a green glow, as it tried to magic itself out. But all it received for its efforts was a sharp burst of pain surging through its brain. Don't even bother. It won't work. The insectoid eyes darted and focused on the bipedal figure sitting across from it. Its head was hidden behind a metallic mask. The eyes, a burning crimson. Not much could be seen in the gloom. You punched me, the changeling hissed. You can talk, came the slightly muffled reply. Judging from the tone, the emotion eater gathered that the stranger before it had not expected a reply. Of course I can talk, the shapeshifter growled, a strange noise to hear from something so insect-like. This makes getting information out of you so much easier, the masked figure said. The changeling could feel the emotion, so minor in the words, and immediately tried to absorb them. The instinct to feed could be overbearingly powerful at times. To its dismay, there was no sustenance to be found. So, we can do this the easy way. The biped stood up and straightened what the changeling recognized to be clothing, or the hard way. Your choice. You think I will give you answers? It asked, disbelieving the other's naivete. Oh, I know you will, it replied. It'll only be a question of how long it'll take before I break you, the biped said, leaning closer, its voice dripping with malice. You really think you can break me? The changeling replied confidently. It began to subtly probe the stranger's mind with its magic, trying to read its emotions. To its dismay and horror, there was nothing, absolutely nothing. Where any other creature would have had a maelstrom of joy, sorrow, rage, anger, and love, there was only a void, a vast nothingness that stretched to infinity. Where any other creature would have had emotions, there seemed to be none. I was hoping you'd say that, the biped whispered. I love a challenge. How long do you think it'll take? It's barely been 10 minutes. I wouldn't be surprised if we're stuck waiting here for 2 hours. The two guards guarding the small room, one in golden armor and the other in dusky purple, were not acting very professionally. It was hard to blame them, though. The room wasn't one some pony would just stumble across, mainly because most areas of the guards' barracks were off limits to civilians, especially the areas underneath. It had also been a while since the interrogation room had even been used, close to 30 years, and because of that, not many ponies even knew that there was one. The solar guard, Pegasus, glanced at the door. Do we even need to be here? The night guard unicorn rolled his eyes. Probably not, but that changeling might break free, he said, brushing his helmet's white plume from his eyes. It was tied to a chair, and the room nullifies magic, the Pegasus explained. We may as well have snapped off its horn and removed its wings. He shuddered. It looked like the captain was about to do that, too. Captain, the purple stallion raised an eyebrow. Which captain? Before the other guard could reply, the door opened. The strange biped they let in barely 10 minutes ago emerged from the room, letting out a yelp as it stumbled backwards and covered its eyes. Damn low-light optics, the courier muttered as one hand rose up and flicked a switch on his helmet. As Thomas walked away, the night guard shuddered. Damn, he's scary, he muttered. The solar guard raised an eyebrow at his remark. You, Beacon, scared? You didn't seem in action, Overcast. Took down 3 night guard captains on his own. At the same time, Beacon replied. And he apparently has weapons that can put a hole in our armor without any effort. Now you're making stuff up, Overcast snorted. There is no way. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. What uh-oh? Beacon asked, not liking what he was hearing. Then he saw what the Pegasus had. Thomas had not bothered to close the door to the interrogation room when he had left. It was wide open, creaking slightly on ancient hinges. We should probably close that, the unicorn said uneasily. Besides, not like the changeling. Beacon cut himself off. Sweet, merciful Faust, it's gone. What? Overcast exclaimed, rushing into the room. It was tied up. I saw it. Beacon, give me a light. The unicorn tried to make his horn glow before bellowing in pain and collapsing to his knees. Stupid magic nullifying. I'll grab a torch. The unicorn left the small room and ran upstairs to the mess hall. As Overcast waited, he inspected the room. The small lantern didn't reveal much, but he could see that the ropes had been untied, not cut or magically forced. He was about to leave the room with this information when he heard something. What was that? He asked. It had come from one of the corners of the room where the light couldn't reach. The sound came again, something that sounded eerily like crying. "I'm back," Beacon exclaimed as he barreled into the room, the small torch in his mouth. He blinked as silence returned. "What's that noise?" "Come over here," Overcast whispered, gesturing with a hoof. Beacon walked slowly over, allowing the torch to shine on the corner the Pegasus was looking at. What they saw was so strange that the torch nearly fell from the unicorn's mouth. The changeling was curled up into a fetal position and sobbing uncontrollably. Overcast hadn't even known that changelings had tears. It was also shaking like a leaf and muttering something under its breath. Red-eyed demon. Red-eyed demon. Despite the guard's prodding, it didn't say anything else, or move from its corner. "So how was it that a changeling managed to get through again?" Luna asked as she paced about her room. "We suspect the influx of new recruits to make up for the losses incurred in the attack during the wedding, along with setting up the actual security measures, gave it the opportunity it needed," Captain Cloud9 answered, keeping her head bowed. "We have begun sweeping the castle, as well as casting the detection spell on staff. So far, we haven't had any luck." "Very well. Return to your duties, Captain." The mare bowed again and backed out of the room, bumping into the still helmeted courier. She turned around and almost let out a squeak when she saw who she had bumped into. Thomas watched in bemusement as the guard's mare disappeared from view as fast as politely possible. "I think your guards are scared of me," he said as he entered the dark room. "Can you blame them?" the princess asked back. "You gave them a display of martial prowess unlike one seen in decades. Doesn't help that you fractured her skull, punctured her lung, and broke 2 of her legs in that fight," she added. "That was her?" he asked, looking back outside the door. He shrugged. "There was a reason I came here. I finished the interrogation." Luna span around, a little shocked. "Already? Impressive. Do I want to know how?" she asked skeptically. "My methods aren't exactly right. Ethics would just get in the way," Thomas answered. "Besides, I got the impression from Shining Armor that he wanted results fast." "Really, that?" Luna trailed off as she thought about that, a troubled expression muddying her features. "That's not important. What did you discover?" "Changelings think they took a weapon. Apparently their queen has it." Thomas shrugged. "Don't know what they're planning, but they think they've got some super weapon." "That alone is reason for concern," the alicorn said worriedly as she resumed her pacing. "If Chrysalis believes she has such a thing, there's no telling what she might do." "Only one thing to do then. Go in and take it from her, by force," the human said, cracking his knuckles. "Calm yourself, courier. We are not going to declare war on them for this, though the fact that we caught a changeling is enough of a reason," she conceded. "And we have been needing to put the new armor through a field test," the princess muttered. "Did you find out anything else?" "Your Highness, we cannot allow this to stand." "Captain, calm yourself. This is not the time for rash decisions." "Princess, they had the gall to infiltrate the staff. There's no telling what they were planning." Thomas and Luna looked at each other with raised eyebrows. There weren't many who had the guts to argue with Princess Celestia. This was made even stranger because the other pony had just been addressed by rank. They entered the throne room to see a fully armored Captain Shining Armor staring down the Princess Celestia. Both were wearing fierce scowls, as Princess Cadence and Twilight Sparkle watched from the sidelines. "Ah," Shining said as he turned around to see Thomas. "What did you learn from the changeling?" All the stallion got in response was a blank stare. "It sounds nice, but I have no idea what you just said." Shining Armor growled unhappily and repeated his question. "Ah, it was here for surveillance. It had no intention of harming anyone, and they think they've got a super weapon." "A what?" the guard exclaimed. "Do they have such a thing, courier?" Celestia asked the moment she recovered from the shock of that statement. "If they do, it's nothing to do with me," the human replied, throwing his arms up in a display of innocence, or perhaps frustration. It was difficult to tell which. "Your Highness, this is all the more reason to attack now," Shining Armor said, rounding towards the white alicorn again. "A show of force will surely make them think twice." "Just my luck. Really, I wind up in a magical land free of major conflict and indirectly start one. It wasn't actually that bad, over before it really started, but it was still frustrating. Anyway, It was a whole 3 hours before things got really settled, and by that I mean that everyone had stopped yelling nonstop to make themselves heard. Had to put a bullet in the ceiling to get that to happen. They weren't happy with that. I didn't care. I'm surprised those princesses yelling didn't send me deaf. Author's notes. Now, I could be an evil bastard and just leave this hanging for a few weeks while I work on my other fix. Or I could just work on this for a while longer. What to do? And damn, Courier is scary.